Play ball.
How you doing, baseball fans, and welcome to another episode of the Brushback with JP Ricciardi. I am John Arezzi, and we're back for a very lively discussion today. It's the end of the season. We're going to talk about the grades of the teams, the crazy finish to the season. So we're very excited to bring back, like we do each and every week, the star of the show, former baseball executive who celebrated a birthday just this week and is getting ready to go to the motherland in Italy. Let's say hello to JP. JP, my friend, you've been a very busy guy lately.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, though, John. We're at the end of the season. It's obviously down to the last three games. A lot of things shaping up. Obviously, the division winners have pretty much been decided. Some of the wild cards have to be left to figure out at this point. But I think, like every year, you want to look back and see what your opinion is or was of the season. And I think today's a great day to be able to give out our grades based on what we think each team did or didn't do. So I'm looking forward to going over that with you, talking about some things about the state of the game, some of the things that are happening. So exciting segment today.
Yeah, we certainly look forward to it, and that'll be the hot takes. And of course, our hot takes each and every week are brought to you by our friends over at Percy's Appliance Outlet, featuring brand name appliances at up to 80% off regular retail prices. They are Worcester's largest dealer of home appliances and electronics, serving Worcester for over 80 years. They are your 80% off retail outlet. And once again, go to Percy's.com, check out all their great everyday great deals on refrigerators, electronics, washers, dryers, bedding, and so much more. Call 508-438-6800. Same day or next day delivery options are available. Percy's, they are your 80% off appliance outlet. All right, JP, here we go. I mean, end of the season is here. Lots of things going on in the game, the surprises, the pennant races. Let's get into it right now.
Let's go. Ready to go.
Let's talk about how this season is ending right now, especially when it comes to those wild card races. I don't think we've ever seen anything quite like this. JP, the wild card expansion last year, now this year, it's gotten crazy.
Yeah, well, what you've allowed is more teams to be able to have a chance to get into the playoffs. So with that, there's more teams fighting for the last weekend of the season, and I think you've seen a couple of teams have really spit the bit, so to speak. I think the Minnesota Twins have really done a bad job of controlling their own destiny and have not really played well down the stretch here. And I think they have to win out right now just to get in, and they got to hope that Detroit and Kansas City loses a little bit. So they went from controlling their own destiny to not controlling their own destiny. And I got to believe no one feels worse about that than them. But right now in the American League, it's really Kansas City and Detroit's to lose. And they both got some. Detroit has the White Sox, so they got a pretty good chance of winning 2 out of 3 there. And Kansas City's got the Braves, I believe, so they've got a little bit of a tough stretch. So there are a couple of things in the American League. In the National League, it's really come down to the Mets and the Braves. And
well, you got to throw the Diamondbacks in there too. I mean, the Diamondbacks, they're really one game separates the three teams, with the Padres now 3 games ahead as we head into the last weekend of the season. But it's anybody's ball game, and you have the Diamondbacks facing the Padres for the last weekend of the series. Mets go to Milwaukee. It's crazy.
Yeah, the Mets have to play the Braves at some point, so that's going to pretty much come down to that determining factor. Which I wish they had a little bit of time off. To kind of be able to just get one day in between, jump into that, and then going into the playoffs. But it is what it is. And like you said, it's a Diamondback, Brave, Met playoff. 2 of those 3 teams are going to go in. So that part, I believe, is exciting. But I think what's more exciting is just to talk about the season that each club has had. So I'm ready to give out my grades when you're ready to go, John.
All right, I am all set. Where do you want to begin?
You pick the league.
All right, let's go right to, where you live in Massachusetts. The Red Sox are in the AL East. Exciting there. The Yankees are in. Let's go over the AL East first.
Okay, so you give me the team, and I'll give you my grade.
Here you go. Let's go right from the division standings. Let's just do that. Where we are in the AL East, Yankees clinched. So let's talk about the. Why don't we do bottom up? Why don't we go to let's go to that last place team in the AL East, which you're familiar with, and that is the Toronto Blue Jays.
I think the Blue Jays, for me, I would have to give them a D. And I'm going to tell you how I did my grading, John. I think if you're 20 games over 500, you get an A. I think if you're 15 games over 500, you get a B plus. If you're 10 games over 500, you get a B, and obviously they could be B minuses. And then anybody who's 500 is obviously a C, and anybody who's under 500, 20 games under 500 or more is an F, and 10 games under 500 for me is pretty much a D. So I believe that the Blue Jays are a D. I think we could possibly even move to a lower grade, but I don't believe they are an F. A lot of expectations were up there this year. Spent a lot of money on the ballpark. Just an underachieving team. I will state, though, John, I told you Vlad Guerrero was going to have a monster bounce back year, and he had a monster bounce back year. But outside of him, I thought the team was dysfunctional in a lot of ways, and I'll be curious to see if there are any changes made in Toronto. But right now, my grade for the Blue Jays is a D.
All right, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay not making the postseason this year. So what do you have to grade them?
I would give Tampa Bay I would have to give them a D plus. I don't think they're as bad as they played this year, but I also don't think they're as good as maybe people expected them. They did have a bunch of injuries, but everybody in baseball has injuries. And, at some point with their lack of resources that they don't go out and spend a lot of money and do a lot of things, and they kind of live on that cheap border, so to speak. I'll take that into consideration somewhat, but the end result is the end result. I'm going to give them a D plus.
All right, your hometown team, Boston Red Sox.
I got to give them a C. I think at some points in the season they played really well. I think the young kids played well. I think Cora did a great job getting some underachievers to overachieve. I think him and Bailey did a very good job with the pitching staff to be able to massage it to get through the season. I don't think it was very deep, and I don't think the bullpen was very deep at times. But they were able to have a pretty good run, create some excitement. But their ERA from the beginning of the season to the end of the season just kept going up, which is obviously a sign of not having enough horses. I'd say a solid C with a very bright future if they're able this winter to go out and spend some money. If they don't spend some money on pitching, then I think they're going to be in the same boat trying to replicate what they did this year. But they do have some good young players coming. I think they have a good foundation. They have some guys they can trade if they want. They have a good group that they can add to. So their arrow to me is pointing up.
Got it. And the Baltimore Orioles, who are in the playoffs, they made it to the wild card. Looked at some point this season that they might overtake the Yankees. That did not happen. What's your grade for Baltimore?
I'm going to give Baltimore a B plus. I think this is a team that came out of the gate really, really hot. A lot of good young players. Some injuries to their pitching staff, but they have not played well in the second half. And this is a team that would not surprise me if they got knocked out. Maybe not the first round, but the second round. I just don't see them right now clicking the way they were in the first half. I think they're under 500 in the second half, which would be alarming to me. They do have Burns who could take the hill on game one and possibly come back in game five. So that is a little bit of an advantage for them. But as a whole, it's hard to say you're disappointed in a team that's going to win possibly 90 games. But I just see their arrow for the season going down. They're not going into the playoffs playing their best baseball. So my grade for them on the season was a B plus.
Okay, and the leader, the team that clinched the Eastern Division title, New York Yankees.
Yankees get an A. Over 20 games, over 500. Went through an abysmal stretch there where they were not good. I think it was something like 15 out of 20. They lost. They went through a few injuries here and there, like most of these teams. But they really turned the corner in the second half. They really got the ship righted, and they really started to play their best baseball, and they separated themselves from the Orioles in this last month of the season. So I would have to give the Yankees a strong A, and it's going to be interesting to see them in the playoffs. If their first two guys in the rotation can really do a good job, Rondon and Cole, they're going to be a tough team to beat. So Yankees for me, A on the season, and I think their playoff success is going to depend on their starting pitching.
Wow. Okay. Because they got those big bashers out there, the two big stars. But yeah, we are anxious to see what's going to happen in the playoffs. Let's go to the AL Central. And we have to start off with the team that could
Angels.
make history, the Chicago White
Oh, I'm
Sox.
sorry. You're going to the Central. I'm sorry. You know,
Yeah,
listen, I'm
Central.
not going to be the guy who piles on. It's an abysmal season. It's one of the worst seasons in the history of baseball. It's a strong F. My concern for the White Sox is what is their future? It's hard to go from 40 wins to 80 wins the next year. It's going to take a lot. So I think it's going to have to be incremental improvements on how they get better. I got to believe they cannot wait for Sunday to get the heck out of town, shut the door, wipe it clean. But now they
Yeah.
have replaced the Mets. They're going to replace the Mets as one of the worst teams ever in the history of baseball. So maybe maybe that's good. Maybe that's bad for Met fans. They get that moniker off, but there's nothing good to say about the White Sox except
No.
close the door and move to next year. But that's the strongest F you could give.
Yeah, I totally agree there. Minnesota Twins, like you talked about in the beginning.
Yeah, the Twins for me right now, I would give them maybe maybe a C minus. I think they've controlled their own destiny. They're going to finish over 500, but it's the way they finished 500. They controlled their own destiny for a long time, and they're not able to finish it. So, with that being said, they have squandered their lead as the season's gone on. It's hard for me to give them anything higher than a C minus because I believe this is a team that was capable of at least being a B, but they have totally fallen apart in the month of September, which history has showed us that many times it happens to teams. But Minnesota was in a position to control their own destiny, and now they're in a position to really hope that they get a lot of help. So for me, no better than a C minus.
There you go. Kansas City.
Kansas City, I think, is a feel good story. I think it's great what's happened. I think JJ Picola did a really good job going out and getting some veteran players, Walker and Lugo, and adding some guys along the way. Took a big step up, spent some money. And so the club has played well. I think they're on the cusp of somewhere between 85 to 88 wins, which is a really good season, a good
Yeah.
turnaround season. I got to give the Kansas City Royals a B.
Yeah, they could be a surprise of the postseason, and then you get to a real surprise of the postseason, the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah, you got to love what the Tigers have done this year. I mean, one good thing about the Tigers that I give them a ton of credit for was they didn't start off great. They kept getting better every month. They kept getting closer every month. They've taken advantage of building on the momentum. And now in September, they're playing their best baseball. So credit to AJ Hinch and the staff. Obviously, you got one of the best starters in baseball in Scooble that he can win a game one for you in the playoffs. But the Tigers have done exactly what the Twins didn't do. The Tigers took advantage of their opportunities, and the Twins let it slip away. So the Tigers, for me, I got to give them a solid B. And I think that they will be a little troublesome in the playoffs with Scooble on the mound. So great finish to the season, which is how you want to end it. And the Tigers are really, really run through the finish line.
And when you get to the top of the heap there in the AL Central, the division champion, Cleveland Guardians.
Yeah, you got to give them an A. I mean, from start to finish, they've led. Stephen Vogt's done a great job. Seamless transition from Francona over to him. The team has played really, really well. No let-ups. Really haven't had many bumps in the road. A very solid, consistent team. Uh, would not be surprised if they got knocked out early in the playoffs. I think they're a good team. I don't think they're a great team loaded with all kinds of power at different points. They got an amazing closer, though. If they have the lead going in, that's going to be their trump card. But they get a strong A. Great season by them.
All right, let's move over to the AL West, and we'll start from the bottom there. The Los Angeles Angels.
You have to give them an F. They're 30 games under 500.
Yeah.
It's a club that I don't think has gotten much better. I don't. They've got a lot of young players playing in the big leagues, so that's exciting for their fan base. But they just don't have enough firepower. to be able to compete right now in that division. I know they're banking on the young kids, but 30 games under 500 is not a good place to be. And right now, I got to give them an F.
And you're looking at the team right above them, and it's the Oakland Athletics, and that's kind of a sad story, regardless of the record this year.
Yeah, very sad what's happened in Oakland. I think 57 years of being in one place and having a lot of success at different points in that juncture in the 70s, in the 90s, in the 2000s. So it's sad to see any franchise roll up the carpet and leave town.
Yeah.
It was nice to see the send off, but it's too bad because there's been a lot of good baseball played in Oakland with a lot of great players, and I was there for 16 years, so I have a soft spot in my heart for the A's. But this year, I'll say this: I'm going to give them an F because their record indicates an F. But their young players have played better, and they have played better in the second half. So there's a little light at the end of the tunnel for this club. I think they're going in the right direction. It's all going to come down to ownership. If ownership wants to give these guys any kind of resources to add to some of the young players they have, they got a chance to move the needle a little bit. But if ownership does not want to do that, then I think, the A's are looking at the same situation, playing all their young kids and hoping that their young kids mature at the major league level. There is some light there, but I have to give them an F.
Well, we'll certainly be following them closely because they're moving even to a minor league stadium next year in Sacramento. So, just kind of it's really sad situation to see them
It's a terrible
leave.
situation. I mean,
Yeah,
how are they going to play in Sacramento? The Sacramento AAA club is there. There's going to be a baseball game played every day at that stadium. How's that field going to hold up? It's about $120 in the summer in Sacramento. How are those major league players going to hold up with that type of heat from June, July, August, and September? It's a bad situation in a lot of fronts, and I just feel bad for the Oakland, the club. But this is the decision their ownership has made, and I just don't think it's going to be a really good one. The players are not going to really enjoy this experience.
and of course the fans in Oakland with their hearts ripped out with their team leaving. So, just a sad situation all around. Let's get up to the Texas Rangers, who had a disappointing season.
Yeah, disappointing season. I think they got some light at the end of the tunnel with some of the young arms that have come up and pitched well for them. But look at John; it's hard to repeat. I get that. It's tough to bounce back. It's tough to repeat. DeGrom's coming back. Scherzer looks like he shut it down for next year. But you're going to have the young rocker kid, the lighter kid. You've got DeGrom. If Scherzer comes back, you got the makings of a pretty good rotation going into next year. A little bit of a hangover from the year before. My grade for them with expectations and how they played would be a D.
Yeah. And then we go to the Seattle Mariners, who also kind of had a disappointing season, JP.
Yeah, I would have to say that the Mariners on the whole had a disappointing season. Outstanding starting pitching, couldn't score runs, didn't really make any moves to get more offense in during the trading deadline. So I think when you have great pitching, but you can't score some type of runs, this is the type of season you end up having. I would give them a B minus. I think they had more control of what they could do, more so at the trading deadline, and I think they let it slip through their hands. But they do have good starting pitching, and I think next year it's going to be interesting to see what they add from an offensive standpoint because they could ride that starting pitching, but they need some help on the offensive side. So for this year, I would give them a B minus.
All right, the division champions, and even though they started off not as good as everyone thought they would, they still finished and they won the division title in the AL West. Seems like perennial postseason team, the Houston Astros.
Yeah, well, they're on that run. They got a nucleus of good players with, the guys that they built the team around, the Bregmans, the Altuves, the young kid in right field. They've got a good, solid club. They've got good starting pitching that I think took a while to get going this year, fought through some bumps and bruises. But, water seeks its level. And one thing in that division, Seattle, Texas, Oakland, and Anaheim really never challenged them to a point where they were going to be in trouble. I think of them like Ali. They kept him on the ropes, kept rope-a-doping the whole season, let him throw their body blows to him, and then in the end, they delivered what they had to deliver. And I think that they're a team that's a veteran club that knows how to win. And, they made a great trade getting the kid from Toronto. And once again, as a GM, Dana Brown did a good job of stepping up and making a big trade for a guy who's really contributed and helped them in an area that they needed. So some of the teams that didn't step up, you suffer the consequences of not doing it. Houston took a chance. They got the left-hander out of Toronto, did a great job for them. And they're going to be – I don't know if I want to play them in the playoffs. They know how to win, and they've been there. Yeah. So my grade for them is a B+.
All right, JP, we're going to get to the National League, but we have to take this short commercial timeout with a message from Percy's Home Appliance Outlet.
Percy's Appliance Showroom, featuring a huge selection of the finest brand names from value to luxury at the guaranteed lowest prices. Whether it's an individual appliance or package, buy with confidence with Percy's Price Match Guarantee. Percy's offers exceptional customer service, fast, expert installation, delivery, and removal. For same-day shopping, look for the green in-stock buttons on Percy's.com and available long-term interest-free financing. Percy's, first on Gold Star Boulevard, Worcester.
Okay, we're back with JP's Hot Takes, and we're going to go right over to the National League and take a look at the report card there. Let's start off in the NL East, and we'll start at the bottom. Miami Marlins.
Marlins are an F. I don't know what they did. I know they had some tough injuries to their pitching staff, and their pitching was their strength. But I have no idea what's going on in Miami. And I'm going to get this off my chest now. I still do not understand how they fired Kim Ng. I have a hard time getting my head around that. This is a woman who was the first woman general manager in professional sports, and obviously in baseball, who paid her dues, did an amazing job by paying her dues, and learned along the way, and was ready for that position. She comes in, she makes some really good trades with her hands tied financially to get them in the playoffs last year. And they can't find a way to keep Kim Ng. I don't understand that move at all. And this is what they turned it over to become an organization that now gets an F, is 30 games under 500. And the other question I have, John, is where are all the people who were jumping up and down and singing Kim Ng's praises as being the first woman to head up a professional organization? Where was the outcry when she was let go? Where were all the advocates for women's rights? I was very disappointed to see the lack of support for Kim, because she is a trailblazer. And yeah. I hope someone notices the good job she did and gives her a second opportunity, because I don't care what you are in our game. I don't care whatever you are. If you've paid your dues and you've worked as hard as Kim Ng has, and you get an opportunity and you do a good job and you're let go, something's wrong with that, John. And I think she did not get treated fairly. So Miami, F.
Yeah, there you go. And I'd certainly like to follow up with you on Kim, towards the end after the season is over, because that is a point that you brought up that is that you can't understand, because she's a star. Like you said, she's a star.
John,
she's done so many great things in the game.
It doesn't matter if she's a star, but she did a good job. I don't understand where all the support for her when she got the job, speaking engagements and invitations to the White House. She was let go under bad circumstances, and no one came to her defense.
Yeah.
Anyway, who you got next?
It's certainly not there. We got the Washington Nationals, JP.
Well, the Nationals, for me, are making progress. There are a lot of good young players coming up through their system. There is talent coming, but for this year, it is what it is. They're an F. They did not have a very good team. Their record indicates that. And even though they're building and they're trying to get better, and they do have some good players coming, we always have to remember that the big leagues is what you're judged on. People don't care about how many prospects you have. They don't want to hear about your process. Fans want to know what the big league club looks like. And they'll invest a little bit of time. But right now, I think Washington, for me, they get an F. They do have some help coming. The next few years are going to be really important to see if those young players start turning the corner for that club.
And we'll get to the Atlanta Braves next, a team that has always been near or at the top of the heap in the NL East. They had some injuries this year and still managed to be very competitive.
I got to give them a B+. I mean, the fact that they've lost Acuna, Albies for a while, some of their pitching, and now they've lost the third baseman. The fact that they're fighting and clawing and hanging in there with a chance to even sneak into the wild card in some way, shape, and form is a credit to Brian Snitker, the staff, Alex Anthopoulos, the job that they've done there. Look, if this team's totally healthy, they're battling the Phillies tooth and nail for first place in that division. But this is a true test of their character, and I think they've showed great resolve, and I'm going to give them a strong B+.
And one of the most surprising teams in baseball this past season, the New York Mets.
Well, John, they're going to get a B+, but they're borderline A because they got off to an abysmal start, and you look, they're almost 20 games over 500. So,
Yeah.
and they could finish 20 games over 500. So they're teetering on getting an A. I think the manager, first time, has had a calming influence. And I'll be honest with you, John, I know it's going to hurt your feelings. When I look at the Mets, they don't scare me. I don't look at them and go, oh my God, I would not want to face them in the playoffs. Obviously, Alonso's got power. Lindor's good. He's banged up. I hope he can play. But it's not a lineup that you go, whoa. Now, when you look at the Braves and they're healthy and you look at that lineup and you go, whoa. So I think the Mets have really done a great job of just coming together as a team and playing well. And, Iglesias has given them life. I think the Mets should really feel good about the job they've done this year. And they're a B+ with a borderline A for me.
Well, that's great. I mean, I was very happy with the way the season has progressed because we didn't expect much. As a Met fan, we didn't expect much. It was supposed to be like transitional year and all of that. So the fact that they gave us very exciting baseball right through September, for me, that has been wonderful, no matter how the season ends today.
Right.
But you got to get then to that powerhouse Philadelphia Phillies. Amazing team. Let's get your grade for Philly.
Strong A. I mean, they've led from start to finish. It's a great team. It's a fun team to watch. Dave Dombrowski's done another good job. It's a tough lineup. I would not want to face this lineup in the playoffs, although good pitching does shut down good hitting. But they've got a couple of good arms at the top of the rotation that can win you games 1 and game 2. And I will say this. If you haven't been to a Phillies game in Philadelphia, it is like going to a big-time college football game.
Yeah.
The fans are amazing. The players have adopted the fans. The fans have adopted the players. They remind me of the old Philadelphia Flyer Broad Street Bullies. This community has taken to this team and created an environment that it is absolutely a huge home field advantage. So you're going to have to beat the Phillies. You're going to have to go through Philadelphia, and those fans are the 10th player on the field for them. It's a good club. It's a fun club. They look like they really get along. Rob Thompson's done a great job. They're going to be tough to beat. They get a strong A.
Yeah, they're a gritty team, and even though as a Met fan you're supposed to hate the Phillies, I kind of like the Phillies. I always have because of their grittiness and Schwarber and Harper and Castellanos and JT Realmuto. I mean, they're all. I just think that they're just a great franchise, and I've been to Philadelphia to see games there. It is an amazing place to watch a ball game. It really is.
Yep.
We'll go to the NL Central and a team that started off kind of promising, and they got some good marks in the beginning of the season, but didn't finish well. The Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah, the Pirates, I got to give them a D. They're 10 games under 500. And I'll be honest with you, I have no idea what's going on in Pittsburgh. They haven't had a winning year in so long. They keep banking on hope. They keep banking on process. They keep banking on just having to solely rely on their drafts to get their major league club. It's hard to do it that way because you got to hope that all these draft picks hit at the same time. And if you screw up in any way, shape, and form, and you take a player that doesn't pan out to what you think he's going to be, that sets you back as well. So I think this organization, it really needs an influx of some major league players that can help get them over the hump. Obviously, Skeens is going to be a star. You got a rotation you can build around. But will Skeens stay in Pittsburgh? Will he want to be a long-term investment in that city? That'll be a big challenge for the Pirates. But the Pirates, for me, it's an organization that I don't think has really moved the needle much. I think their drafts have been good, not great, and they're trying to build it that way, and that's a slow, long process. And I got to take my hat off to the Pirate fans. because they show up at that ballpark and they've seen a very mediocre a mediocre a mediocre uh, product for a long time, and I would be disappointed if I was a Pirates fan.
Yeah. Well, I guess you could, segue into another disappointing fan base, and that was for this year's Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah, got to give the Reds a D as well. Just seems like there's a disconnect there. They got some exciting players. They got some good young players, but it seems like their pitching isn't tied with their everyday players, and it just seems like there's an imbalance there in some way, shape, and form. I put them in the same category with the Pirates. They have not had a lot of success in the last few years. Um, a little bit of spending on some free agents, I think, could add to what they're trying to do. But I can't even sit here and say they got some young players, and I'd like to tell you that both the Pirates and the Reds have a bright future, but it's all dependent on young players getting to the big leagues at the same time and it all working. That's a tough way to do it. So I don't know. I think Cincinnati and Pittsburgh got a lot of work to do.
And the St. Louis Cardinals, who are kind of perennial contenders each and every year, and this year was kind of surprising where they didn't do that well. And great fan base, great city to play ball in, but disappointing year for the Cardinals.
Yeah, I think the Cardinals, if you ask them, would tell you it's a disappointing year. I mean, obviously, I heard attendance is down like 200,000 fans, which in St. Louis,
Yeah,
that's unheard of. They've had such a great
that's
run.
News. That's a news story.
That is news because it's such an iconic franchise and so beloved by the people in the Midwest. But cards on the table, you got to give them a C. They really haven't done much. They didn't have great streaks during the season, so some work has to be done there as well.
Yeah, we get to the Chicago Cubbies, and the Cubbies. Did not finish in the hunt this year, but what's your grade for Chicago?
I think that the Cubs and the Cardinals kind of mirror each other. They're two organizations that are strong organizations. They're organizations that have the wherewithal to go out and spend money. And listen, John, I'm not an advocate of just throwing money at something and it gets better, but I am an advocate of spending money to add to what you have. And I think the Cubs are going to have to go out and make some bigger moves than they've made to kind of solidify that team. The kid from Japan had an amazing year.
He did.
And obviously, see how he responds after having one full year in the big leagues. They've got some good young players on the way. But right now, I think the challenge is going to be with both them and the Cardinals is how do they add in the offseason? Do they add to their payroll? Do they add proven major league players? But right now, both those clubs are a C for me.
Yeah. The team that clinched the NL Central this year, the Milwaukee Brewers.
I'll tell you what, John, I would not want to play the Brewers in the playoffs. They pitch it, they catch it, they hit it, they're athletic. I think Pat Murphy's done a great job of taking the baton from Council, and I think it was a great hire by them because it made it a seamless transition. This team scares me because they really, really defend. And I think if you could catch the ball in the playoffs and pitch it, you got a chance to beat people. I know they're in the Midwest, sleepy Midwest. No one's paid attention to them. Don't be surprised if this team is in the World Series. I give them a strong A.
Without even like huge marquee names, they're all, as you said, they're great on defense. They've surprised a lot of people, and they could go all the way, as you said. So it will be very exciting to see.
Make up a great collaborative effort. They really play well together.
Yeah. So what you're saying, they could be the most surprising team of all in this whole postseason.
I wouldn't want to play them in the playoffs. I would not be surprised if they came out of the National League.
Wow. All right, let's go to the NL West and finish up. Colorado Rockies, JP.
Honestly, John, that's another organization. I have no idea what they're doing. It's a strong F. They haven't made any strides. They got an amazing fan base who turns out for them in droves. They don't spend any money at the major league level. They keep drafting, putting the young players in the big leagues, and the young players have to struggle. I don't see a path to them getting better. I'm totally confused by their their thoughts, their process. They're building through the draft, which is an extremely hard way to build. At some point, they got to spend some money. Now, I will say this. In all fairness to the Rockies, it is hard to get pitching to go to Colorado. But on the flip side, they keep drafting hitters. The only way you can get pitching at this level is if you draft pitching. But they keep drafting hitters. Now, if you're going to draft those hitters and trade for pitching, I get it. But they haven't even done that. So right now, I see them pretty much as a rudderless ship and not a good – it's an F. How do you argue with giving them an F?
Yeah. Well, the next team on the list, the San Francisco Giants, a team you are very familiar with, being part of the organization for many years. Give us your assessment and your scorecard and your grade on the Giants.
I would give the Giants a C-. I think that they trying to be as objective as I can be with them. They did absolutely nothing at the trading deadline. I thought their trade deadlines or lack of work at the trade deadline didn't do anything to help them. I thought their offseason was spending a lot of money. They traded Soler so fast. They only had him for like 3 months. They realized that was a bad sign. I think Chapman worked out really well for them. That was a very good sign for them. I don't really like the extension. I think it's too long for that guy that age, but I understand why they had to do it. Snell was a bad first half, better second half guy, but now he's going to obviously exercise his option. He may stay in San Francisco if they come up with the money, and he probably likes pitching there. But this is a team to me that has been unrelatable for the last 6 years. I don't understand how they put their roster together. I don't understand how they keep running guys up there that are basically 4A players and hoping that the fans buy into it. I don't understand what the Giants have done. Even when I was there, I didn't understand what they did. So to me, that's an organization that's in flux, and I wouldn't be surprised if some changes were made there. But I don't like the club at all. I think it's unrelatable. I give them a C-. And if they didn't play as well as they had over the last few weeks, I could have given them a D.
Wow. Arizona Diamondbacks are next. They're still in the hunt, could finish in that wild card spot, and they are the defending National League champions.
Well, the next three teams are all teams that have had a good year. The problem with Arizona is they're scuffling a little bit in the last month, and they have had a good year. I'm going to give them a B+. I think they're going to be disappointed if they don't make the playoffs based on what they did last year and actually how well they've played the second half early. And remember, John, they got off to a terrible start.
Yes.
So they've done a great job of rebounding from that, and they've come back. But the last few weeks, they've been teetering a little bit. And I think, for them, obviously the weekend's huge. They're going to have to win 2 out of 3 to keep themselves separated from the other teams. But overall on the year, I give them a B+.
Got it. And the San Diego Padres, who had an okay season, they did well. Then the trade deadline came, and then they took off like a rocket ship. Let's get your grade on San Diego.
Padres get an A. Went from basically sputtering to moving to a little bit more acceleration to boom once the trading deadline had come. I think they, off the top of my head, maybe the best record in the second half. I think they're playing really well right now. AJ Preller, the GM, did a really good job. He's never been afraid to make trades. He went out and made trades. And that team is not only going to be in the playoffs, that's another scary team. They're playing their best baseball right now. And I don't know if I want to face them going into the playoffs. But very good year by them, and I give them a strong A.
Yeah, they're going to be really fun to watch in the postseason. And finally, JP, the Los Angeles Dodgers, clinching the NL West. Amazing season. Star-studded team. Give us your grade for the Dodgers.
Well, obviously, John, it's a strong A.
Yeah.
I read one prognosticator who had given them like a C. And I was shaking my head saying, how can you give a team that's 30 games over 500 a C? Their pitching is a little shaky. If I had to pick that NCAA basketball 116 upset, this would be it. I could see someone upsetting them because their starting pitching is not locked down. But, man, that is a really good lineup. There's a lot of good players you got to get out. And it's going to take really exceptional pitching to shut down, Freeman, Betts, Ohtani, just those three guys alone, not to mention the supporting cast. So for me, they're an A. It's an A with a little caveat that their pitching might not be. They're the National League version of the Orioles for me. Good teams, but I don't know if their pitching is enough to get them through some of those short series. But very good year, and obviously led by Ohtani.
All right, JP, that wraps up the grades, but we'll come back with some final thoughts on the baseball season after we talk about one of our other sponsors, and that are the team that you're very familiar with, and that's the Worcester Bravehearts. The Worcester Bravehearts already planning for 2025 to make it even a better family entertainment experience than ever before. All season long, the Bravehearts offered great baseball combined with an overall great value for you and your family. 2025, they'll be doing it all over again. You can follow the Bravehearts on Instagram at Woo Baseball for all the updates on the planning for 2025, or listen for those updates right here on this show. Go to WorcesterBraveheartsStore.com to get some Worcester Bravehearts merch, including caps, t-shirts, jerseys, and sweatshirts today. Okay, JP, before we wrap it up today, Ohtani, let's touch base on Ohtani, and he continues. The 50-50 record is now in place, the first guy ever to do it. Amazing watching this guy.
John, it wouldn't surprise me if he did 60-60 next year.
I know.
I made a very bold statement, and it wasn't a haphazard throwaway statement. I honestly believe if he keeps this up for another 2-3 years, this is the greatest player our game has ever seen. And that is no disrespect to Babe Ruth. I think Babe Ruth and Ohtani are the only comps. This guy hasn't even pitched this year. I think they're the only comps because of being two-way players. And it's no disrespect to Griffey and Bonds and Mays and Aaron and Mantle and so many, Williams, DiMaggio, so many great players that have come before him. But, John, he's doing it in a day and age where the pitching has never thrown harder. Not better, but harder. The arms are out of the bullpens from first inning to ninth inning. There isn't an arm that isn't throwing high 90s. He's doing it in a day and age where there's more travel. He's a target too. People know who he is. They're coming after him. It's when you sit back and take a giant step back and realize what this guy has done, it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, incredible. I've never seen a performance like that 6-for-6 game with the 3 home runs. I mean, you were glued, and you couldn't turn away. It was amazing. It was the best performance, best game I've ever seen by a player in my lifetime.
Well, and the other thing is, if you think of our game, John, right? And let's face it, we still have a great game. Baseball is a great game. As much as we're trying to destroy it, and as much as the history has tried to destroy it with the Black Sox scandal, with the steroid era, there's always been a guy, a Babe Ruth, pulled it out of the doldrums back in the 20s. Cal Ripken Jr., what he did during the strike in the steroid era. And now you got Ohtani, who's carrying the torch from those amazing players. So I think that's what makes our game so great. What I will tell you, that to get this off my chest, what I don't like about our game is organizations are being run by so many non-baseball people. And I don't mean that to be degrading in any way, shape, and form, because Dave Dombrowski came into the game as a non-baseball person, and he's done a great job. And so many other guys. But what we're doing to our game, John, is we're losing the fabric of our game. We are cutting scouts left and right. Organizations are firing scouts left and right. Now, I will tell you, as someone who's been in the business for a long time, there are some scouts that aren't good scouts and shouldn't be working. We should be looking for the best people. But there are a lot of very good scouts with history and with pelts on the wall with getting major league players and helping organizations make good decisions that have changed organizations around that are losing their job. We have minor league instructors who are now instructing in the minor leagues that really don't know how to teach the game. They'll give you a YouTube video on how they teach something, but when someone asks them something different, like why, how about this or how about that, they don't have an answer for it. The minor leagues have never been coached or managed by less professional people than they are right now. You know, we live in a time and age right now, John, where if you're an ex-major leaguer or an ex-minor leaguer, you have less of a chance of getting a job in baseball. And that's wrong. We're losing that history of our game. We're losing, and I'm not telling you that scouts are the end-all be-all, and I'm not telling you that player development people with a long history are the end-all be-all. What I'm telling you is they are contributors to our game that have made a lot of good decisions for organizations, and they're being pushed aside by a new front offices that believe that they have all the answers. And because they have all the answers, they don't want the input. They don't want to be challenged. They don't want anybody to question them because they've never been questioned in their whole life. It's run by a lot of kids who have had a lot of success educationally, but not baseball-wise. And we are losing a fabric in our game that is very, very disappointing to me, that all of a sudden our game has become, this is what you should do, this is what you should do, this is what you should do, these check marks, and they think they're going to be able to solve everything. So I come back to you with this, John. Which organization is being run like that is dominating our game? And I can tell you the answer. It's zero. Brian Sabian did an amazing job in San Francisco. He won 3 world championships. Very bright guy. He wasn't sitting on a street corner flipping coins how to figure out how to run an organization. It was well thought out, surrounded with great baseball people. So I'm very disappointed in what's happened to the fabric of our game. And I'm waiting for some of these owners to wake up and say, hey, we've been trying it with all the data and all the analytics and everything like that. Where has it gotten us? So I hope that there's a turn in our game at some point. I hope that we go back to letting the baseball people get back in our game. I'm worried because I don't know who's going to know who the baseball people are. But that's my vent for the day, John. I'm very, very disappointed in what our game's become. And I'm very sorry to hear about so many of the guys that have given their life to this game, 40, 30, 50 years in the game, and have lost their job. Scouts with 29 years with one club just got let go. It's disappointing. And it falls right on the leadership of these organizations who believe they're being run by people who have all the answers. And you want to know something? They don't have all the answers. The game is not that easy.
The baseball lifers are being pushed out. They really are.
100%.
The people that have that experience, and you see it and you hear it on the podcast, on radio shows. And JP, I would like to do a deeper dive with you on this topic when you return and once we get deeper into the postseason, because it needs to be brought up and it needs to be made, the public needs to be made aware of it.
Well, what's disappointing to me, John, is we think the game is easy now. We think we have all these algorithms and these charts and all the research and development, and it's being run by kids like 25 to 35 with no history in the game. And they laugh at the people with history in the game who have, I'll use this as an example. Ron Washington, one of the best infield instructors I've ever seen. Ron Washington makes people better because he goes out and works with them. Yeah. He doesn't make them better because he's taken every analytical readout and telling them this is what you have to do. And John, I'll be the first guy to tell you, I want all the information I can get. Give me all the information that you could possibly give me. But don't tell me that that's the only way to do something, because it's been proven out. Our game is made up of individuals who do things individually different from each other. And those are the outliers. And those are the guys who become stars. But we think the game is easy now. We have models to telling us how to scout a player. I mean, are you kidding me? Yeah. I mean, a model is going to tell me how a guy who's 27 years old writes up a model and he's going to tell me, I'll give you a perfect example. We should have drafted Sal Frelick with the San Francisco Giants. We walked past him to take a pitcher who's got the AA and is scuffling his whole career right now. And Sal Frelick could have been in center field, playing center field for the Giants, and he's only been the defensive player of the week like 4 times. Instead, the Giants went out and spent $120 million on a guy that's an unknown from Korea, who in my evaluation is a 4th outfielder. They spent all that money on a guy, that they could have drafted precisely, and I'm not second guessing here, as I was first guessing, and this is just an example. When you push veteran guys who are evaluators out and you think you got all the answers, it ends up costing you. And that's one case. And there's many cases across the game. So I'm on a rant. I know it.
Yeah.
I'm a little upset because I'm sorry to see what's happened to the fabric of our game.
Well, I think maybe it's time that you take a little bit of a break and go on vacation and get yourself calmed down, and so you get ready to.
I just have John, I have a passion for our game.
I know
And
you do.
what bothers me is when we think that there's one way of doing it,
Yeah.
and someone thinks that we're hiring people because we think they're intelligent. Well, you might be intelligent in the classroom, but now you have to lead an organization. And that leadership is not an easy thing. That means you have to have people skills. That means you have to take time to get to know people. And we don't have that. There is no personal relationships left in our game. Maybe certain teams, 2 or 3 of them, but for the most part, baseball has become a very cold, calculated business with no respect for what's gone on before them.
Said. I know on next week's show, you had a conversation with somebody that you hold in very high esteem, someone we referenced on this show. So why don't you let everybody know who is going to be your special exclusive guest on the next program?
Yeah, I think people are going to really like the next guest. It's Brian Sabean, iconic general manager for the San Francisco Giants, 4 World Series appearances, 3 World Series wins. In my estimation, he's a Hall of Famer. You got John Sherholtz, you've got some other guys. I think Dave Dombrowski's going to go in as an executive, and there'll be some other guys along the way. But when you think about someone who has really had his hand prints all over an organization and has taken them from, not being very good to winning world championships, and how he did it, and the people he surrounded himself with, and his thought process, very bright guy, Brian Sabean, and someone, he's a dear friend of mine, but more importantly, someone I greatly respect.
Well, we look forward to that next week. And JP, that'll wrap up this edition. You gave a great editorial there, and we're going to follow up on that. And, of course, we'll be knee-deep into the postseason, and that'll wrap up this week's Brushback with JP. You could follow JP on X and Instagram at RICCIARDIJP. And subscribe to this show wherever you find it on your podcast platforms, whether it's Apple or Spotify and all the others that are carrying the show. There is the YouTube channel as well. So just look for it at youtube.com/Brushback with JP. Until next time, this is John Arezzi. Have a great week, everyone.